Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, or chapter 87 of Krishna book, entitled Prayers by the Personified Vedas. So, Prabhupada further says, therefore, by the process of self-realization or God realization through fruitive activities, philosophical speculation, or mystic yoga, one cannot actually approach the supreme source of everything. When the creation is completely terminated, when there is no existence of the Vedas, no existence of material time, and no existence of gross and subtle material elements, and when all the living entities are in the non-manifested stage, resting within Narayan, then all these manufactured processes become null and void and cannot act. So when the whole creation is unmanifested and everything is resting in the body of Lord Narayan or Mahavishnu, then all these processes, all these manufactured processes, fruitive activities, philosophical, karma kanda, jnana kanda, hatha yoga, they become null and void and cannot act. Because the soul who's supposed to do this, they are just resting in the body of Mahavishnu. But devotional service, however, is eternally going on in the eternal spiritual world. Therefore, the only factual process of self-realization, of God realization, is devotional service. And one who takes to this process takes to the real process of God's realization. So this is a real process. And Vedas itself are saying this. In this regard, Srila Swami has composed a verse which conveys the idea that the supreme source of everything, the supreme personality of Godhead, is so great and unlimited that it's not possible for the living entity to understand him by any material acquisition. Because he is beyond our material mind, material knowledge, material judgment. One should therefore pray to the Lord to be engaged in his devotional service eternally, so that by the grace of the Lord one can understand the supreme source of creation. So one can only understand him by his grace. There's no other way. The supreme source of creation, the supreme Lord, reveals himself only to the devotees. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says to Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, because you are my devotee and because you are my intimate friend, I shall reveal to you the process of understanding me. In other words, the supreme source of creation, the supreme personality of God, cannot be understood by our own endeavor. We have to please him with devotion service, and then he will reveal himself to us. Then we can understand him to some extent, to the extent whatever he makes us eligible for. So all we have to do is perform devotional service with these material senses. But we just have to perform. And then the senses get purified, intelligence gets purified, mind gets purified. And then we can understand him to a certain extent. Fully, nobody can understand him. There are different kinds of philosophers who have tried to understand the supreme source by their mental speculation. There are generally 6 kinds of mental speculators whose speculations are called Shad Darshan, 6 philosophies. All these philosophers are impersonalists and are known as Mayavadis. Every one of them has tried to establish his own opinion, although they all have later compromised and stated that all opinions led to the same goal and that every opinion is therefore valid. According to the prayers of the personified Vedas, however, none of them is valid because the process of knowledge is created within the temporary material world. So, Shad Darshan, Prabhupada talks about one of them later. There's 6 kinds of philosophies, but Prabhupada said they're all Mayavada, impersonalist philosophies. And they are actually the null and void. Doesn't make sense. And also Vedas say because all these processes are created within the temporary material world, so how can something created within this temporary material world can know the absolute, who is beyond the material world? So the knowledge to know him should also come from beyond. They have all missed the real point. The Supreme Personality of Godhead or the absolute truth can be understood only by devotional service and no other way. One class of philosophers known as Mimamsakas, represented by sages such as Jaimini, have concluded that everyone should engage in pious activities or prescribed duties, and such activities will lead one to the highest perfection. But this is contradicted in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna says that by pious activities one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, but that as soon as one's accumulation of pious activities is used up, one has to leave the enjoyment of a higher standard of material prosperity in the heavenly planets and immediately come down again to these lower planets where the duration of life is very short and where the standard of material happiness is of a lower grade. So pious activities does not take us to the highest perfection. They can only take us to heavenly planets. Therefore, the exact words used in Bhagavad Gita are Kshirne Punne Marte Lokam Vishanti. Therefore, the conclusion of Mimamsaka actually, the same philosophy was given by Krishna during when he stopped Maharaj Nanda from performing Govardhan Puja, from performing Indra Puja. So Mimamsaka means if we do good, we'll get good results. That's it. Whatever we do, we get the results. Of course, that's not the greatest philosophy, but at that time, Krishna had to stop Nanda Maharaj from doing Indra Puja, so he gave this philosophy. But finally, he gave, we should worship Govardhan. So therefore, the conclusion of the Mimamsaka philosophers that pious activities will lead one to the absolute truth is not valid. Although a pure devotee is by nature inclined to perform pious activities, no one can attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by pious activities alone. See? It is strange. I mean, it doesn't mean we have to commit sinful activity. That definitely will make us go to hell. But pious activities alone doesn't attract Krishna. It's bhakti that attracts Krishna. There's a huge difference. Pious activities may purify one of the contamination caused by ignorance and passion. But this purification is automatically attained by a devotee constantly engaged in hearing the transcendental message of Godhead in the form of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or similar scriptures. See, just this purification can easily be attained by devotees. By hearing the transcendental message or by chanting Krishna's holy name. it takes him even beyond the contamination of ignorance and compassion. And another example of person performing pious activity, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip, and he used to perform his Sankirtan every night in the house of Srivas Thakur. But that house would be closed for people in general. Mahaprabhu had made a rule, only devotees are allowed, and that's it. So every night, whole night, they would be doing kirtan, dancing and chanting every night. But people of Navadvip, they were interested in coming to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance and participate in the kirtan, but they didn't have devotional bank balance. So Mahaprabhu did not allow that. There was one Brahman, Brahmachari Brahman, and he was very, very pious, very simple, very pure. And he approached Srivas Thakur that, please let me witness Mahaprabhu's dancing at least once. And that Brahmachari was so pure that he would only drink milk. That's it. He wouldn't eat anything else. Forget about eating anything nonsense. Nothing. No cooked food, no fruits, nothing. He would only take some milk every day. And very, very pure, very humble person. So Srivas Thakur said, devotees are by nature very compassionate, very merciful. So Srivas Thakur said, okay, you come in, but what you do is you hide behind this wall or whatever, and then you can watch from this behind. You don't come inside the kirtan. He said, okay, that's good enough. So he came and he hid behind the wall, and Mahaprabhu came in the evening and started dancing and chanting. And after a while, Mahaprabhu stopped dancing. And he said, look, I'm not getting all the ecstatic feelings that I used to get every day. Is there somebody here who's not supposed to be here? Srivas, did you bring in somebody? Now, Srivas could not say no and could not say yes, and he was just standing. And this Brahmachari got up and he approached Mahaprabhu and he said, well, I begged him to let me watch your kirtan, and I'm the one who is here. And Srivas told Mahaprabhu, he's very pure Brahman, he only lives on milk, he doesn't do any sinful activity. And Mahaprabhu got little upset, not angry, little upset. He said, do you think you can attain me or my association by only drinking milk? Get this Brahman out of here. Get this Brahmachari out of here. So the Brahmachari, although he was kicked out, but he was very humble. Even while going, he was paying obeisances and he left. So Mahaprabhu said, yes, in future, one of future births, he will attend devotional service, but only by performing austerities and pious activities, one cannot attain me. So a huge difference between pious activity and bhakti. Bhakti is to perform activities favorable to Krishna or Krishna's devotees, favorable as a favorable service to Krishna, Krishna's devotees. Pious activity could be anything, just like this Brahmachari was doing, very austere, and or like helping people in general, opening hospitals, treating people, feeding them. These are all pious activities, wonderful activities, no doubt about it. But this is not direct service to Krishna. Many times people claim there are many organizations who are doing service for the humanity, which is good, nothing wrong. But then in India they say, oh, Manav Seva is Madhav Seva. That's not true. course, those who are devotees, they're not against these activities. They're not against this charity or other services to the humanities. But the main aim is to serve Krishna. And how do we serve Krishna? Navda Bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padsevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. That's it. Now, how the people in general can be brought into devotional service? How do we serve them in such a way that they can come into devotional service? Just like if somebody is hungry, he has to be fed first before we can even preach to him. Yes, true. But our process of feeding a hungry person is not just giving him food, we give him prasadam. So that way his hunger is satisfied, and that way actually he gets agyat sukriti. Agyat means unknowingly he does some sukriti, or sukriti can be said pious activity or favorable activity towards Krishna consciousness. He is eating, but he is eating prasadam. Huge difference. Devotees go out and collect money. Now Janmashtami festival is coming up, or Rath Yatra festival was there, or other. So devotees go out, they ask for donations. So what are they doing? Yes, they're collecting money so the festivals can be held properly, nicely, opulently for Krishna's pleasure. So in the process, devotee is doing devotion service, but the person he's collecting it from, they did agyat sukriti. Until their consciousness says, yes, I want to serve Krishna, then they are doing devotional service. Otherwise, they are doing agyat sukriti. Or when we do Harinam Sankirtan, when we do book distribution, so many activities Prabhupada has given. So these are basically to engage people in general in the service of Krishna. So whether some of them could be doing devotional activity because they're already devotees, and some of them could be doing pious, agyat sukriti. So when the bank balance of agyat sukriti it comes to a certain extent, then Krishna arranges for that person to come in contact with devotees so that they can learn more how to be engaged in devotion service. And then slowly, we all make progress by performing Navda Bhakti. 1, 2, or all parts of Navda Bhakti. So huge difference between pious activity and devotion service. So this is what Prabhupada is also writing. The pious activities just purify one of the contamination, which is not devotion service. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand that even a person who is not up to the standard of pious activities, but who is absolutely engaged in devotional service, is to be considered well situated on the path of spiritual perfection. Powerful statement. One who is not up to the standard of pious activities, but he is engaged in devotional service. So devotional service again, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and all that. But maybe he's not very pious, maybe he's not in mode of goodness, but he is doing devotional activity. So Prabhupada says, he is to be considered well situated on the path of spiritual perfection. Well situated. Because sooner or later, just like a person who's dirty is taking shower, sooner or later he will be cleansed. cleansed of all sorts of contaminations. But only by doing pious activities one cannot be cleansed. Contamination is what? Anarthas within our heart. Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. So many times it is seen, it is observed, then a person who claims to be devotee is chanting and he is doing all this, but at the same time he is doing lots of nonsense things, and his behavior is not proper towards people in general or towards other devotees. But this is what the scripture says. The person is somehow engaged in devotion service, sooner or later he will get purified. That is for sure. So it's because we are in such a beginning stage of devotion service, it takes time to develop all the qualities that Krishna expects of us. First, when he talks about the qualities of a devotee or a self-realized person in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, so many qualities we studied. It takes time. But the process is this only. Keep on engaging, keep on doing more and more devotion service with more and more sincerity and more determination, perseverance. Keep on. It's also said in the Bhagavad Gita that a person who is engaged in devotion service with love and faith is guided from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord himself as Paramatma or the spiritual master sitting within one's heart gives the devotee exact directions by which he can gradually go back to Godhead. The conclusion of the Mimamsaka philosophers is not actually the truth which can lead one to real understanding. So all these 6 darshan or 6 philosophies, they're not the ultimate, they're not the perfect philosophies. Similarly, there are Sankhya philosophers, metaphysicians, or materialistic scientists who study this cosmic manifestation by the invented scientific method and do not recognize the supreme authority of God as a creator of the cosmic manifestation. They wrongly conclude that the reactions of the material elements are the original cause of creation. So they wrongly conclude. Bhagavad Gita, however, does not accept this theory. And Prabhupada is theory only. It's not, there's no practical proof to it. It is clearly said that therein that behind the cosmic activities is the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This fact is corroborated by the Vedic injunction, Sadva Sayam Deyam Agra Asit, which means that the origin of the creation existed before the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, the material elements cannot be the cause of the material creation. So something has to be beyond this material creation to come to do the creation. Just like when we are building a building with whatever elements, bricks and cement and rebars and whatever, that is not within the building and by which we are building the building. That we bring from outside, we put together and create a building. So, although the material elements are accepted as immediate causes, the ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself for the creation. Bhagavad Gita therefore says that material nature works under the direction of Krishna. So nothing happens on its own. Some scientists say that, oh, there was an explosion and everything happened, everything came into being because of that explosion. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't happen like that. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo, everything comes from me. And this material world, made of 8 separated my energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. He says in Bhagavad Gita. And they all come from me. They are my separated, 8 separated energies. Bhinna prakriti ashtada. But again, those who don't have intelligence, proper frame of mind, proper consciousness, they just cannot understand it. That's what it is. So it takes time. It takes long time, but that's how it works. Okay, so I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am. You have comment, question? I guess not. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.